Hi everybody, and welcome back to Stuff, Stories, and Crafts, episode 2! Today's story is called Dandelion Daydreams. So we'll be making these adorable dandelion paintings with our hands and a plastic fork. It's a bit wacky. We'll also be making our own little rock friends. Now I remember making these when I was in kindergarten, and I think I kept mine for years, and I just loved it so much. So I'm really excited to share this project with you guys. So what you're going to need for your paintings is some paper. I'm using colored paper because, well, I love everything to be colorful, but also because we're using white paint, so it just shows up much better on colored paper. You will need a plastic fork, as I mentioned. Now take note, I'm using a plastic party fork and not a plastic takeout fork that comes in with the little plastic thing, because they've got these weird spine things on the back of them. They work alright, just not as well as a party fork if you've got it. You'll also need 4 different colors of paint, or more, depends how wacky you want to go with it. Of course, you can use whatever colors you want, and the more out there, the better. But for today, I'm just going to do some traditional colors for this project. So I'm using green for the stem, yellow for the golden dandelions, white for the wish dandelions, and then they also need a little bit of brown just at the top of the stem. You'll also need a paper plate or something to use as a palette for your paints, and you can use a paintbrush, but I'm not going to. And if you do use a paintbrush, then have some water nearby that you can rinse it off. Now again, this is a finger painting project, so it's gonna get messy, so make sure you've got some paper towels or wipes or something nearby. So that's everything you need for the paintings project. What you need for your rock friends are, of course, some rocks that you've already washed off, a small paintbrush, whatever color paint you want, again, paper plate, water, and my favorite part, the googly eyes. Alright, so now that we've got all of our supplies, let's get to it. So we're going to start with the white wishing dandelion because you kind of have to do it in 2 parts because it needs to dry between. Get your finger nice and wet with the green paint and draw a nice line down the page to be your stem. You might have to double dip a little bit there. You can add a leaf and make a little brown bulb at the top of your stem. Now that has to dry so that you can paint white on top of it. So while we're waiting for that to dry, we're just going to go ahead and start the other flower. So again, same thing with the stem. Uh-oh, I ran out of paint. To do the petals on the golden one, you're just going to swirl your fork around in some yellow paint and have all of your lines start in the same place and go out from there until you've got a good circle of petals. Love this project because it's super fun and simple and quick. So if you don't have a lot of time, you can still get a whole flower done in like 5 minutes. It's so great. Alright, so that is how quick and simple and easy it is to do this dandelion painting. And we'll go back to our wishing dandelion. So this one, you need the white paint. So just like before, just dip your finger right in there and then just go around your flower and make a nice circle around it, and then just go in and fill it in. Just dot 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 dot. Alrighty. And that's that. That's how quick and easy this one is. It's so much fun. You can do both in 10 minutes. So now that we finished our flowers, we're gonna make our rock friends. So you want to start out with your rock and just kind of get to know your rock. See, these two are fairly smooth and pebble-like, so they are pretty simple on where the face is gonna go. But this guy is very differently shaped. He's got all sorts of bumps and ridges and stuff going on. So you kind of have to get to know your rock and see where his natural face might be. So I think I'm going to put his face on this side. Because he kind of has like some eye sockets and a nose bridge and maybe a spot for a mouth there. And I'm going to stick on the googly eyes. And now I'm going to take my paintbrush and come in and give him a nose so he can smell our beautiful flowers we just made. I'm going to take some red and give him a nice smile. Now I'm going to take some green and give him green hair. Like maybe he's got some moss on his head. Yeah? And that's all there is to it, my little rock friends. Alrighty, now that we've finished our dandelions and our rock friends, it's time to hear the story Dandelion Daydreams. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there was a lonely little girl named Penelope. Penelope had just moved to the village of Dem from the land of Ishbar. The trouble was that in Ishbar they spoke Dirkden, and in Dem they always spoke Bernese. But Penelope didn't know any Bernese. She also didn't have any siblings to play with when her parents were busy with work. And she was having a really hard time making new friends. One day she was feeling especially sad, and both her parents were busy with work. So she went out to the backyard and started skipping stones across the creek. At first she could only get like 1 or 2 skips with a rock. But then she was able to skip a rock all the way across the creek, and she was so excited that she jumped up and spun around to see if anybody had seen her do it. But nobody was there, except 2 little rocks that seemed to be smiling up at her. And she decided that she was going to keep them and name them, and they were going to be her friends. Now at the same time across the creek, unbeknownst to Penelope, there was a little boy in a tree, and he'd been watching her. He found her so enchanting he couldn't help it, but he was too shy to say hi. But then, when he heard her talking to her new rock friends, and telling them about Ishbar, and the move, and how she missed her friends, how she liked her house better in Dim, but the people weren't as nice, he was over the moon excited, because he had never heard anybody speaking Dirkden but his mom, and he always loved the way it sounded. So he climbed down the tree as fast as he could, but he wasn't quite fast enough, because Penelope had already left the creek to go home, and he couldn't see her anymore. When Penelope got home, she gave her new rock friends a bath in the kitchen sink, and took out her paints to give them faces. That night she tucked them into bed with her and slept more soundly than she had slept since she moved to Dem. The next day she decided to take her rock friends with her to the park. She took them up to the tallest tower on the jungle gym, pushed them down slides, and carried them in her pockets while she did the monkey bars. But when she stopped to have a picnic, some older kids came by, and at first she was excited. She thought, maybe they want to be friends. But she wasn't sure what they were saying because of the language difference, but she could tell by the way that they were laughing and pointing at her and her rock friends that they weren't being very nice. So Penelope left the playground. But when she came back the next day, the same thing happened. And again the next time. But that time the little boy saw it, and he was going to step in, but she left too soon. So when he went home, he got out his paint set and set to work to make Penelope happy. And then The next day, he went back to the playground. And he went back the next day, and the next, and the next, and the next. And it took almost a week and a half before Penelope came back. But eventually she did, and she brought her rock friends with her. But as soon as she got there, the big kids started laughing at her and pointing, and she just felt awful. So she ran off into the woods at the back of the park. And she ran and ran and ran and ran, and the little boy ran and ran and ran and ran after her. She ran until she came to a meadow, just a wide open field full of gold and white dandelions, and it was beautiful. And for a moment she just stopped and cried, and then she picked a dandelion and blew it out and made a wish. She wished for a real friend, and just then, as if in answer to her wish, the little boy came out into the meadow. At first she was nervous, afraid he was going to bully her just like the others. But her heart was set at ease when he opened his mouth and spoke in perfect Dirkton, and he said, "Hello, my name is Burl, and this is my friend Kip. Would you like to be our friend?" Penelope was over the moon excited. And Burl taught her burn beanies and introduced her to the nicest kids in the village. And most importantly, he made sure that she never felt lonely ever again. The end. Alrighty everybody, that's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning back into Stuff Stories and Crafts. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any crafts or stories coming up. Also, like, comment, and share. I'd love to hear your feedback, as well as see any pictures of the crafts you do with your youngins and hear stories about what they get up to with their pet rocks.